It is 6:03. A big story here. Rape accusations put a retired Oklahoma County deputy on the wrong side of the law 4 years ago. He has maintained his innocence.
And now, for the first time, the deputy is speaking exclusively with Lisa about the charges, the fallout, and the years-long battle to clear his name. Lisa?
Well, Christopher Bowles faced some disturbing allegations, the kind he says that can stick without any real proof. Defending himself over the years, he says, has always been about more than avoiding prison. He says he's been fighting for his reputation, his family, and the truth.
On the graveyard shift, inside the cell block housing Oklahoma County's most violent inmates, Deputy Christopher Bowles began locking down for the night when 3 inmates attacked. Hands around his throat, everything began to go dim.
Looking up and thinking, well, Lord, here I come, and kind of fading out because I was being choked.
Bowles survived, but the attack left him with deep scars, a brain injury, emotional trauma, and relentless nightmares.
PTSD and anxiety and whatnot, it progressively got worse.
For nearly a decade, he worked through the pain, but by 2018, the trauma had become too much. He walked away a retired but respected deputy, never imagining he'd be back just a few years later, only this time in cuffs.
It was tough. It's
blindsided again, this time by accusations of rape and sexual assault. In 2021, 2 girls came forward accusing him of abuse dating back to his time in uniform. He denied it.
I still can't believe that such things were said.
What came next, he says, was worse than the nightmares he'd had before.
It seemed unreal.
The allegations put him back on the inside, arrested, charged, and face-to-face with inmates again. No badge, no protection.
There was quite a few that had recognized me and had quite interesting things to say and threats. I just wait until you get out.
Did you think something bad was going to happen?
Oh yeah. It was. There was no sleep.
His mind couldn't rest either. His character was under attack.
It was tough because you don't imagine it even getting that far. When something's said that's not true, you don't even imagine it even going any farther than let me explain.
So how would the now disgraced deputy prove it? And even if he could, would his life ever be the same as before? Coming up at 6:45, I'll have more of his story and the fight to clear his name.
So Oklahoma County Deputy Christopher Bowles protected the county jail for a decade and retired a decorated deputy before finding himself on the other side of the law.
Rape accusations sent him back to the jail in 2021. And only on 9, Lisa shows us how far this deputy was willing to go to clear his name. Lisa?
Well, over the years, questions piled up about the timing, the motive, and the evidence in the case against Christopher Bowles. A retired deputy turned defendant, Bowles called the accusations false. He says when no one seemed to listen, he was willing to walk into court a disgraced deputy, hoping to set the record straight.
And had so much of my life taken over false allegations.
Portrayed as a sexual predator, former Oklahoma County Deputy Christopher Bowles and his defense attorneys challenged the state's case against him.
If we're going to accuse somebody of the most vile crimes known to man, you better have some evidence of that.
Bowles was determined to set the record straight.
Once that allegation is made, you have to be willing to go the distance.
He took a polygraph test, sat for a 3-hour interview with investigators, and answered questions.
You were accused of rape and lewd acts. What do you want people to know about you?
It's so not true.
But proving that would mean turning down a deal from prosecutors. They offered him probation. He refused.
He turned it down because he wanted to tell the truth.
Also, they say, because the state's case was so weak.
And there wasn't a lick of evidence to support that. The police didn't even go to Christopher Bowles' house. They didn't take pictures of the house. They didn't go inside.
The timing of the allegations also raised questions, coming just as Bowles was set to receive a settlement for the 2008 jail attack. That money, his attorneys say, was the motive in a case built on lies.
They just took her statement, filed charges, and we waited for 4 years to go tell our side of the story. It's appalling.
He spent more than 60 days in jail and another 4 years in legal limbo before finally a trial.
Once we got our day in court, Mr. Bowles got to tell a story. He told the truth.
Were you nervous about the outcome of the trial?
Yes, I was very nervous. Anything could happen when you get 12 people hearing the same thing.
But Bowles says the truth was on his side. The jurors agreed, delivering a not guilty verdict, and with it, overwhelming relief.
I was relieved, very relieved, excited. There's so many emotions all in that one moment. Couldn't believe that it was finally over.
He walked out free, but freedom didn't lead to peace.
I've come to realize after this is over, this is never going to be over. There's still going to be those that are still going to believe regardless.
Although acquitted, Bowles says people still judge.
Somebody finds out that that's what you're charged with, or it's the look on their face just changes. The way they look at you and perceive you is completely different.
Changed forever himself, Bowles hopes sharing his perspective might help spare someone else from the same scars. Scars that, like those from the jailhouse attack, haven't fully healed.
It's a day-by-day process of getting my life back and working towards that.
Well, he hopes his acquittal will serve as a reminder to everyone not to rush to judgment in cases like this. Prosecutors do not immediately make a public statement after the verdict, but I think it's an important discussion to have when we talk about these accusations. An accusation is just that until everyone gets a day in court.
What is Christopher Bowles doing today?
You know, he's still on disability from that jailhouse attack. He nearly lost his life, choked to death there in the jail. And so he said he has no interest in doing anything more than just appreciating the freedom he was given by that jury.
Well, like we talked about in the last half hour, it's hard to imagine going somewhere where you work, being attacked, and now looking at the possibility of going back on the other side of it with inmates that knew who he was. That's it could be a scary situation for sure.
PTSD and anxiety, it's a very real thing.
Lisa Monahan, thank you so much.